We are live. The Ethereum breakout. What does it mean? Is the whole rest of the market going to rally? Can Ethereum create an alt season that lasts? If so, what are the coins? Is Bitcoin done? And of course, the question is, what is next for XRP? When is XRP going to move? I can't get on the air before someone asks, is XRP going to move? Now, if you stay here for this video, we're going to go through the Ethereum charts. We're going to go through the coins that are really moving and have even more upside, because that's going to be based on the ideas of what happened in 2020 and 2021, even 2017 for that matter. And we will discuss, of course, what this means for XRP and other big altcoins. Now, let's start with something that is and is not obvious. Big tech stocks, big tech companies are going to borrow $1 trillion to spend on AI. Big companies in the stock market relative to small companies have never been, more expensive. In other words, the value of big stocks versus small stocks is unbelievable. The only thing there is left in the stock market, it feels like, is big stocks. Now, how does that impact crypto? I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. AI increases in value, up. Crypto must follow because they're both disruptive technologies. Now, I know I keep saying this and everyone's like, what? I'm telling you, the more they put into AI, the higher crypto goes, because it's just a massive valuation expansion. Because I'm sure you're looking at the tape going, why is Polkadot up 5%? Why is Chainlink up 10%? Why is ETH triggering a rally, whereas Bitcoin triggered nothing? We'll go over that. Actually, we'll go over it right now. Ethereum is the leader of altcoins. It is the ultimate, original, in some ways, altcoin. So when money flows into ETH, it flows into DeFi applications. It floods into cross-chain applications. Polkadot might be one of those coins. Obviously, Chainlink, because Chainlink connects the whole world to ETH and the layer 2s, right? Don't forget, there's ETH, and then there's the highways that, coins can travel on the ETH network. Arbitrum, and who knows what the Base network can do to ETH. Because remember, Base has no native token. What's the native token of Base? Ethereum. So it's like the more demand there is for altcoins, the more people head for Base, the more demand picks up for Ethereum. And then it becomes a circular cycle, right? Everybody piles in altcoins, that pumps Ethereum, right? Ethereum pumps, that pumps more altcoins. And around we go. And I will make a personal note. Thank God, for the sake of my sanity and my customers, that I got this thing turned around. Like, I was bearish. I saw Arthur Hayes sell. I knew what he was looking at. I waited 2 days, and thank God I turned around in reverse. I saw an article, I've got it here. Arthur Hayes bought his ETH back above 4,000. I was like, oh my God. Sometimes in trading, you have to get yourself turned around. Now, that also applies to people who missed it, right? You missed Ethereum. Oh my God, what are you going to do? Well, literally, there is an entire world of altcoins. For example, the ISO 20022, compliant cryptocurrencies. In other words, cryptos that banks are eventually going to have to use, right, for faster payment systems. Guess what they are? The American-made cryptos, right? XRP, XLM, Algorand, Hedera, right? XTC. They are absolutely everywhere. Absolutely everywhere, right? They were in January. Now they're nowhere to be found. Now there's nowhere to be found. Just now, Ethereum just flipped Mastercard in value. And I think the best way to look at Ethereum is Ethereum should be worth $1 trillion. Like, I know there's guys out there talking about 10,000 and 15,000 Ethereum, and that's great. Okay, that's fine. All right. That's awesome. But Ethereum should be worth $1 trillion. And I don't know, I can't believe this, but President Trump's director of digital assets just resigned. I don't know what that's about. Maybe because they didn't create the Bitcoin strategic reserve. Who knows? And that's next. That's next, by the way. In other words, if they didn't go far enough, if they didn't go fast enough, they're going to eventually have to. That's the whole thing about this. Right? Like, first, I thought it was cringe that everybody was buying ETH for treasury companies. They were doing the same thing in XRP, and I think Solana is next. At first, I was like, maybe this is cringe. And then there's the other idea that maybe people are hedging against the dollar falling. This is the only way to trade the dollar falling. So you have this huge macro backdrop, with the bond market pricing in 2 rate cuts. It doesn't get any better than this, really. I mean, the orange man was just on the tape before this one guy quit and says, you know, we're going to double down and make Bitcoin and crypto just keep going up and up and up. Effectively, what they're doing is they're talking it up by just coming out and saying bullish things. Eric Trump, as they say, throwing shade at the $100 million in Ethereum shorts that just got liquidated. I mean, people were making fun of him for buying ETH at 3,000. You know, it lost half of its value from there. But again, no one is long. It was one of the first things you're going to say is, why is it trading like this? Why is it going straight up? Because there's no seller, which, I mean, that's going to lead us to certain altcoins, which, you know, you can literally pick out of thin air. You know, coins we gave our people, you know, we gave them, you know, we definitely obviously gave them Chainlink, but, you know, Sui has underperformed on the way up here. That could be next, right? Uniswap and all of the ETH-based coins. And I'm looking at Render up 3 days in a row. Does anybody remember AI? Does anybody remember it? I don't think anybody remembers AI. And it's got, you know, potential along with other layer ones. Now, there's the thing from 2021 that you got to remember is that ETH and the layer ones went vertical. And we'll go into that more. Daniel J., a customer, doing a $7 shout out from the Jersey Shore. Sir, salute to you. Salute to you. Right? Other layer ones like Aptos are up 3 days in a row. Right? SEI was another layer one that Tobie was talking about 2 days ago on the YouTube member podcast, which, again, if you're missing the YouTube member podcast or what we got in Patreon Platinum, you're missing out, right? Tobie got everybody involved in the small caps 2 weeks before this ETH thing took off, right? And Patreon Platinum, once I got it turned around, they had a list of 10 coins that they could just FOMO straight into before this thing went up. So please come check us out so we can help you, right? We would be happy to help you, right? And, you know, you've still got other coins, still got things that Tobie likes, and even the memes. Like, remember Arthur Hayes, like, dumping Pepe along with ETH? Pepe is up 3 or 4 days in a row. Please don't underestimate what can happen. And then, of course, there's Solana. The entire Solana ecosystem. Like, Solana is effectively the new ETH. It's effectively the new ETH. It hasn't done anything, right? And what happens when it takes off? And Big Rich looking at Aero, right? I got to tell you something. I got to be honest. there are people inside Patreon that sometimes are smarter than me. Like our customer base, the people who are paying us are like junior analysts inside of like a hedge fund research team. Like Big Rich came into the YouTube member live stream. Was like, can you look at Aero? I was like, oh, Aero, cool. Right. And I knew that's one of the other signals that I knew I was wrong about being negative ETH. And I'm just not staying that way. So if you look at this, man, I mean, this is a freak show. Because, you had like a LuxAlgo, I'm just going to not draw on it. You had like a LuxAlgo accumulation cone here. They broke out at the bottom, and this is when Arthur Hayes sold. Right? And I'm not ragging on Arthur Hayes because everybody got negative down here. Like, oh my God, this is breaking down, stonks, blah, 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 blah. Then this turns around and explodes through the top. So if it breaks out at the bottom and comes back in, it's going to blow through the top. And that's exactly what happens. And Coinbase is all over the tape going, hey, we're finally going to do something with Base. Can you imagine? Can you imagine when they put Base functionality and Coinbase wallets functionality in the hands of like normies? I mean, Aero is just breaking out now. So if it comes back and retraces, it's a dip. And then Aero is so destroyed, it's only now at equilibrium, which is a great point to make, if I don't say so myself, that there are a lot of altcoins. Like, ETH has probably got resistance at 4,800. Like ETH versus Bitcoin has dramatically outperformed to the point where I think Bitcoin is going to turn around and go up. There's a lot of coins that have done absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing. Somebody's asking for it right now. We can look at meme coins because I think people are getting mad if their coins are not rallying in this market. And frankly, that's a sign that it can just keep going. That can just keep going, right? I mean, when people get mad that their coin is not moving, it keeps going up, right? Like, don't dump something because it's not moving. Okay, so one thing you can see in SKI is just bag holders can't stop getting out, right? This is why it's not going up, because every time there's a green candle, everyone bails. And, the whole market kind of looks like this, where, there's stuff that's not going up, that's being sold on the first uptick, and that's not the right trade. Now, I don't know if that's true in SKI, but what I tell people is if it goes up and people sell it and it doesn't go down, then it's going to turn around and go up. And then there's the hated rallies, right? the ones, the coins that no one wants. Like, this is the classic, right? This is the classic. Like people who have owned it and have suffered and suffered and suffered and suffered. Polkadot, right? Polkadot. Up 3 days in a row. Money flow only starting to come in. Right? It's the beginning in Polkadot. It's the beginning. Certain things in this market could be absolutely unstoppable. And then there's another idea that's kind of funny. The optics on this law enforcement issue, does anybody even remember that? What did I tell you about that? That it was going to disappear when it had a crypto rally. That's all you needed. Trump linked World Liberty Financial borrowing more money to buy more crypto. They were actually obviously loaded up on ETH. And you know what? The orange man is going from somebody that everybody was hammering on to guys that are going to get on bended knee because this tariff thing didn't wreck the stock market. And I'm assuming they're just collecting large amounts of money. So I don't know why the head of digital assets quit. Maybe he didn't want to sell his crypto. I don't know. Or maybe they're not moving fast enough. I guess we'll find the details out soon. But like we said, going back to 2021, I don't think I made that point like deep enough. Like this is Avalanche, and Avalanche is still inside of its range, and it just seems to not want to break out. But I ask you this, and I've been asking you this about resistance. Remember the 200-day moving average? Remember this stuff? Everyone's like, oh my God, watch out for resistance. Yeah, no. These things haven't even left their range. And the thing about ETH and 2020 and 2021 is that ETH not only set off like layer one season, but it ignited DeFi systems, right? And then it eventually ignited wild speculation, right? Okay, breaking news from the Eagle King. This guy is discussing, this guy who quit has been, this is like right now in the middle of a rally, which is really kind of strange, but we'll go over the news. So serving as AI and crypto czar, right, has been the honor of a lifetime. Together, we have positioned America in the crypto world. Very grateful. I love this community. As I return to the private sector, I look forward to continuing my support for the crypto ecosystem. Oh my God, somebody offered him a better deal because crypto exploded. It's like, wow, you know, this guy knows everything about what's going on the inside. Oh my God, we have to pay him. So it's not a negative thing. People are, this is like the AI scientists, right? You know how they FOMO'd in, we're paying 10 or $100 million. Yeah, guess what? Guess what, people? It just happens to crypto. Now, there are a lot of annoyed people out there about XRP. We'll look at some XRP charts later. But honestly, do you have to? Do you have to? Nothing outperforms forever. First, it was Bitcoin outperforming. Then it'll be ETH up to 4,500 or 4,800. Then what's next? Well, it's either Solana or XRP. Now, why would it be XRP? Because of this whole idea of crypto as money. Like I haven't fully understood why there's a tax on gold or a tariff on gold. I don't know why that would be. But it points everybody towards forms of money inside of crypto. And I think one of the reasons why these ETH treasury companies are buying crypto, other than to get on the map, is because they become takeover targets. I think this is true in Bitcoin and ETH only, but I continue to believe that Ripple is some kind of takeover target. And I know this sounds nuts, but this market hasn't seen a catalyst yet. Like first it was Bitcoin ETF. First it was like, oh yeah, we got to have Bitcoin because Michael Saylor says we got to have Bitcoin. And then Tom Lee comes out and goes, ETH's going to 10K. And everybody gets bearish for like 72 hours. And then ETH just levitates because, as Tobie said, in the YouTube member area, ETH was just undervalued, right? It was just suppressed. So what happens when people actually start doing things with crypto, or there's a major takeover? Like what have been the big events in crypto this year? The Circle IPO? Please. Right? Okay. You've had like all these treasury companies, which is like, you know, again, it's major cringe still. But there hasn't been like an, oh my God, event. I call it the deep seek moment. Like when, you know, somebody goes, oh my God, they made ChatGPT at half the price, allegedly. Right? Where everybody goes, oh my God, we're behind. But I'm not going to oversell it because I don't have to. Because, you know, we've been doing this show together for like 2 years, and she just laid it all out for you. She told you about ETH. She's told you about XRP. She's told you what the upside target is. She's told you when it's going to go there. Right? And this particular piece of, like, if you had this and Patreon Platinum, you know, you're still 25% below, I don't know, frankly, places that don't produce good research. The reason my channel is considered a micro channel is because, you know, we focus on research. We focus on research. And there's no better research than somebody who like got, you know, I don't know, frankly, just trained analyst with intuitive abilities that border on the clairvoyant and can also write crypto and AI books about the future. I mean, I don't know where you get better vision than that. This is why I keep saying you haven't had an event in crypto yet. Maybe this guy is going to work for the people who are going to create the event, the takeover, right? Or the announcement of some kind of, you know, strategic reserve by the United States. In other words, they just bought the czar because they want to know what Uncle Sugar is doing next. Why do you think Howard Lutnick works there? He's not working there because he sounds great on television, because he doesn't. He sounds like a complete moron, but he's a billionaire. And he's there to find out what the administration is going to do with crypto. His company, Cantor Fitzgerald, they just waved in a bunch of Bitcoin. Speaking of which, what have you heard about Bitcoin in the last week? Nothing. And this reminds me, and I know I've said this before, but it's like, I call it the jumping bean effect. Like, it used to be XRP jumped, and then ETH would catch up. And then XRP would jump, right? And then ETH would jump, and then XRP, and then so on. Whatever gets kind of jumped in terms of market cap back in, right, would then start jumping. So what's going to catch up with ETH? What's going to catch up with ETH? It's got to be, I mean, it's got to be XRP, I think. Right? First it was Bitcoin, and then everyone said ETH was dead. Right? Remember all that genius? Except Tobie, right? ETH was like, she was like, shut up. Shut up. Ethereum worth 514 billion. Bitcoin worth 2.3 trillion. Like, all of crypto is just now crossing the value of Microsoft and Nvidia. So one company is worth more than what I would call Web3, including Bitcoin. So we have a monetary system, we have tech stocks, we have AI. Yeah, all of that in a decentralized world is now worth one company, and people are telling me this can't go up anymore. XRP is only worth 191 billion. I mean, XRP has to add like $300 billion to its market cap to get to where ETH is. You got to be kidding me. I mean, do you need advanced technical analysis? Solana isn't even worth 100 billion. Remember when ETH was dead and it was all about Solana? That was 3 months ago. 3 months ago. And I mean, nothing drives it home better than some of these charts. Chainlink, $14 billion. That's why people inside Chainlink were buying Chainlink. They're like, oh, $14 billion? You got to be kidding me. You know, like people like Uncle Sugar and the government floss with $14 or $15 billion. Avalanche just crossing 10 billion. Are you crazy? Uniswap, 6 billion. Uniswap, did you know Uniswap was profitable? Like Maker, that's what I keep calling it. It's not Maker anymore. Pepe at 5 billion. So they have ETH, and Pepe levered ETH hasn't done anything. And Monero, they're crushing today because of this tornado cash verdict. How funny is that? The ultimate privacy play is getting hammered because Roman Storm from Tornado Cash got convicted on the small charge of making some unlicensed money transmission device. I don't know, which is ridiculous because he just wrote code. But, you know, they were going to get him on something because I'm sure the prosecutors made this dramatic case. You know, I still think that the orange man should pardon him. And who knows? That could be the catalyst. Like Ross was great because he had a lot of big people behind him on the politics. But if the orange man comes out for transactional freedom, forget about it. And I'm also looking like, this. I mean, I got news. I mean, we could be here for an hour and a half. Do you realize that TAO, which is like the marquee AI coin, and Aave are worth less than $5 billion? They're ranked 32 and 33. Like, Ondo, like, I guess real world assets is dead. Like, no banks are coming in. No one's going to do anything on ETH or Ondo or anywhere. ICP used to be the marquee internet coin. Used to be the marquee internet. The marquee AI coin. And now the speculation has begun. SPX6900, which I believe runs on ETH and I'm sure is on decentralized exchanges or centralized exchanges, like the meme algos, are just now waking up. All right. The bigger the base, the higher into space, right? This case, it's just a gigantic rounding bottom or a teacup and handle. It's probably just a gigantic rounding bottom where they gave you the wonderful sensation of running everyone's stops for days and days before the algo comes in and goes, okay, we'll buy it now. The algos haven't come in yet. You know why? Because they're on vacation. They're on vacation, right? This was part of the theory. This was part of the bearish theory, which again, thank God I got turned around. I was like, well, there's no buyer. If there's a big move and there's a sell-off because of equities, there's absolutely no buyer. Okay, well, that was wrong, but it still applies that everyone's at the beach. Europe doesn't work in August. So who's a seller? Who's a seller? Like, guys who own this are like, yeah, okay, I'm going to the beach. Wow. They got their phone and go, I'm going to a barbecue. I'm not selling anything. That's why it's happening over a weekend. Can you imagine what's going to happen when oh my God, these ETF guys. Let's go. Let's pull up. We're kind of doing this casual today. By the way, if you like this research, can you like and subscribe to the channel? We got the 200 likes once, and the only thing better than getting the 200 likes once is getting the 200 likes twice. So please don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. And of course, now that I've done that, I just forgot what I was talking about. All I know is the guys who are at the beach are not selling. Big Rich is still DCAing into TAO. The man's got the hot hand. So I suggest you listen. But this is another coin. Like, people have forgotten about AI. Like, for example, no one has asked what layer ones are AI agents going to transact on. No one's even talking about it. That's because people haven't awakened to the idea. I mean, TAO doesn't have any resistance until 467, and it could go to 500 if we get into a market where no one cares, where no one cares about resistance. Like, Hedera has done nothing. Like, that's funny. I got to be the only YouTuber that's not in Vegas. If you look at, like, we were looking at trending content, yeah, there isn't any. There isn't any because they're all in Vegas, which is funny. I was actually up for an award as the micro influencer. I don't know who won the category. It doesn't matter. I mean, of course it matters. It matters for the channel, and it matters for people like the Eagle King and for Tobie, but like the influencer of the year, right, was AJ Wright's crypto. the guy who BitBoy was picking on. He like got his start with BitBoy, and wow, did they absolutely destroyed him. And so people, they voted him in, you know, influencer of the year. Can you believe that? Against Altcoin Daily. That's something else. But there's no content. There's no content. Like there's no seller and there's no content. People are supposed to be out of their minds. They must be out of their minds. Well, of course, I'm happy to help, right? I'm just only too happy to help. Now, here comes XRP, because I know people in XRP are ready to explode, okay? So here is the 4-hour XRP chart, and you're probably wondering, what has this done? It has done absolutely nothing. Nothing. Which leads to the next question. What happens when it does? This is the new question, right? What happens when it does? Like XRP has really not gotten emotional yet. Like ETH is getting emotional. ETH will get emotional above 5,400, 4,500, right? No emotion in XRP. Doesn't even look like anyone cared. You know, XRP breaks out. This is not the greatest drawing tool in the world. XRP breaks out. XRP comes back down because of this idiot insider seller. Destroyed the coin, but gave it a nice little ABC correction right back to resistance that goes all the way back to February. And then it bounces, and everyone thinks this is not going up. This is going to make a new high. This is going to make a new high. Now, I don't know. Tobie has given you the what and the when of the upside target, right? So I don't want to give you that, so I don't get smacked with the goddess sandal, and my glasses don't get any more crooked than they already are. But you get the idea, right? Like what is going to stop this? What's going to stop it? That's the question, right? It's not like, is it going to continue going up? That's not the question. The question is, where does it all stop? You know, can you look at the Solana chart and in any way, shape, or form tell that ETH is now at 4,500? Everyone's like, what's next? What do you mean, what's next? Okay, so here's what's funny. You got a 13 top on the daily chart of Bitcoin. So you have a 13 top, which is great for altcoins because it means Bitcoin might sit still for a while. Still, which is great for altcoins. But, so this is ETH versus Bitcoin. And if you ever wondered what a perfect DeMark, the green numbers are set up, the red numbers are countdown. This textbook, right? But ETH has gotten to a very stretched out position versus Bitcoin, which leads me to another point. What happens if ETH should slow down? And it doesn't. It doesn't. In other words, everyone's like, well, you know, ETH can't go up. That was the old thinking. Now, the new thinking is, well, ETH will stop here. It's overdone. Yeah, it'll stop here. Yeah. Guess what, bro? In the history of the last cycle, yeah, okay. Everybody thought it was going to stop. Everybody thought, you know, the NFTs were overdone until Tom Brady and Madonna were paying $600,000 for monkey JPEGs. And they were on Instagram telling people how smart they were. Madonna's like, oh, I'm now in Web3. She's got an ugly monkey JPEG. That's how much FOMO can be created by ETH. ETH went up so much in value, people are like, well, you know, I got to buy a monkey JPEG now because I made so much money in ETH. And then the monkey JPEGs went parabolic. I mean, people don't understand what can happen here. They don't. I mean, this whole thing is very underrated. And by the way, we were on some of these coins like Curve and Lido. I remember Tobie picked Lido 2 or 3 weeks ago. This whole idea about liquid staking is going to create more speculation in crypto because they destroyed all the liquid staking cryptos after they had liquid staking or staking for the ETFs. The staking for the ETFs was going to just drain more supply out. And people don't understand that the SEC greenlights liquid staking, and then people are going to use liquid staking to speculate. Only thing is, there's less crypto to stake. This thing where legacy is draining all the crypto out of the market. I mean, is it a wonder? I mean, BlackRock's been buying Ethereum relentlessly for 2 months. 2 months. Fidelity has been there with them. And you had a bunch of Jeets dump this, I don't know, however many days ago. They're like, oh, everybody out of the Ethereum ETF. Oh, that's what I wanted to pull up. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yep. How about the Ethereum ETF? You know, it was at the premium zone, and then they're going to wake up. They're going to come in on Sunday night, and they're going to be like, oh, my God. This thing is going, oh, yeah, share screen. This thing could just gap through everything. Like this hasn't been, oh, my God. This hasn't been open for 2 days. And I know I'm kind of like over making this point. Dude, Legacy hasn't even been able to adjust to this move yet. They haven't been able to adjust, right? Like here's the liquid staking protocol or the, you know, some type of related protocol in Solana. It's like you can't even tell it with some of these cryptos. You can't even tell that we're in a bull market. You can't even tell. And everyone's like, I missed it. What have you missed? I mean, what Tobie was telling you 2 weeks ago was that you could take altcoins, print them all out on a piece of paper, throw a dart at it, and probably do okay. That comes from the stock market where, you know, the Wall Street Journal used to literally have to print out every stock, the price, and the price change every single day. It was like, you know, the S&P 500 on paper. So it used to say you could like tack it up on a wall and throw a dart and do well. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, you're crazy. Really? How crazy? You know, the thing that's funny is the real influencer of the year. I mean, I know that they run the popular crowd. This is the real influencer of the year. Nobody knows about it yet. But don't worry, that's going to change too. That's going to change. Because she's doing the small caps live, and our guys have had small caps, you know, for 3 or 4 weeks. 3 or 4 weeks. Now, you know, I got to talk about this somewhat. I know I briefly brought it up. So, you know, Tornado Cash raises alarms for people who want to develop code, right? That you can get in trouble if your code, I don't know, if the Justice Department in New York doesn't like your code. But I have a very sneaking suspicion. 1 count in a partial verdict. I have a very sneaking suspicion that this guy's going to get pardoned. Because his legal bills, the Ethereum Foundation donated they got money now. Donated $500,000 to his legal fund. Speaking of which, do you realize that the Ethereum Foundation, I don't know, this has got to be like maybe 10 months ago. Instead of putting ETH into something like Aave and borrowing against it, they had so little confidence they were actually selling ETH at like 3,000. They sold it because they lost confidence in their own protocol. Can you believe it? Like, you know, when you're at a bottom and you have insiders buying, that's a buy signal. Even if it goes way down and insiders are selling or they're laying people off or whatever, that's the bottom. That's it. But when you have a project like ETH, and they were bearish on their own protocol because everybody was drinking the Solana only Kool-Aid. And they sold. They didn't borrow against it. They sold. So you have to think. ETH Inc., consensus, whatever you want to call it, is short their own coin. They're short their own coin. Which is why it just continues going up and up and up and up. Right? What's going to stop crypto? T-Bone says, I remember buying ETH at 900 in the bear market. You know, the money isn't made in the buying and the selling. The money is made in the waiting. And it's one thing that Tobie talks about all the time. Because, you know, I sit here, I got to look at this market every day. You know, there are some weeks or some days where it goes down, you know, and I'm pulling my hair out. And Tobie's like, you know what? One of the benefits of the way she does things is, you know, she sits around and, you know, writes cool science fiction books, which you can get in the links down below, right? And doesn't have to look at this every day. And if you don't look at it every day, you can remain kind of attached perspective. And Richard Barry is bringing up the full moon. You know, we had the full moon recently. A lot of times the full moon can be bottoms. I think if you want to talk GAN, there are multiple eclipses in the month of September. And I looked at that because they can be frightening in multiple ways, right? When you have an eclipse, it magnifies a move. So when I saw the eclipses and Arthur Hayes selling, I was like, oh my God, this whole thing's going to get spanked and bottom at the eclipse. This turns out to be a sequel to what happened to the Bitcoin ETF in early 2023, where it went vertical into the eclipse, magnifying the trend. And then the top was somewhere in September, which is why I'm like, sell the fact on any Fed rate cut. What stops this? Like, I think the first eclipse, like maybe the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse, is on the 7th. There's one on the 7th. There's one on the 22nd. And there's the Fed meeting somewhere in there. And then the fall equinox is right next to an eclipse. Now, you know, these things, generally speaking, are dangerous. Or crypto can use the power of the eclipse to just go, whoop, just rally right into this thing and then probably top out after that. And then you'll find out what Tobie thinks about all that in the YouTube member area and what she thinks about the fourth quarter, just in case you think this whole thing is overbought. It is not overbought. Like ETH has rallied, Bitcoin has rallied. I would argue that most of altcoins are actually underbought. It's underbought. People are, they're underinvested. They're underinvested. That's why it moves the way it does. Let's take a moment to welcome who's here. The loyal Spartans and probably everybody else's audience, because there's no content. There's no content, right? There's no content providers, I should say. Like, I'm the only one that didn't go to Vegas one day. I got nominated, but I couldn't go. Bull Runner, Miklo, welcome. Willimeter is in the house. JB, you know, some of these guys who are members since September of last year, I think they're about to get their Spartan emoji. Willimeter, Miklo, Chase Wright, a member. Joe Robbins, good evening. Philip Kohler, pancakes and peanut butter. Crypto Caveman, Georgie Rich, BitBoy Al, Richard Barry, a guy who's next, along with FD White. Crypto Caveman, Suncatcher Hawaii, Daniel J. from the Jersey Shore, Crypto Palmer, Ill Evolution, Welcome, gentlemen. Chase Wright, welcome. We got guys going back and forth. It's like the Patreon chat room inside the live stream chat. I love you guys. Michael Lynn likes the skull shirt. Link catching steam. Dude, don't get in front of Chainlink. Chainlink's going to 50, not investment advice, right? Not investment advice. Crypto Shaman, welcome. John Doe, hello, 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 hello. Isaac Azuki. That's not the correct way to say it. There is T-Bone. Grandpa Keeter. Thanks for doing 2 shows today. Much respect. $20 super chat from the guys who are already paying us. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to. I don't have to do commercials. I mean, I do, but the best commercials for the show come from the guys who come in and super chat. Now, here's what I'm going to say about antivirus. Because I knew the Tornado Cash version, the verdict, was going to be a big deal. See, what antivirus does is it has like private gift cards, private eSIM cards, so you can talk on the phone and Palantir isn't listening in. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And I got to be careful with that because we had one of our YouTube streams demonetized. We still don't know why. It could be, maybe we just have to talk about, plant food. We'll call it plant food, right? There was a political influencer who's just did something about plant food and related clients. Now, as you can see, there isn't a whole lot going on this chart, except for the bigger the base, the higher into space, right? This has mixer functionality. You can go from ETH to Solana or Solana to ETH, basically covering your transaction, right? The difference between this and Tornado Cash, it has a suite of privacy projects and, of course, AI John McAfee, who will be walking and talking one day with a new roadmap out Monday. Now, this is also an example of if you have something that did an original up move, this is why I try to tell the ski mask dog guys. If you had the energy for that kind of a move, okay, you had the energy for this kind of a move, you have the energy to do it again. It can happen again. This is why I keep trying to tell Ski and all these other guys, like, look, the energy that moved that thing, this is a GAN thing. If the energy that moved that coin is not gone, it's not gone. It's still there. It's just waiting to be unleashed, which is why my concept of underbought comes from. Right? Tom Rizzo says, I'm not afraid to buy Bill's top tier. It's not like spending $10. I don't mind spending $25. That's the middle tier Patreon. Because upwards just feel like Bill is trying to get. It's like, I don't know. Is this a compliment or not a compliment? I don't know. Here's the deal. Oh, it's not a compliment. Here's the deal. $25 is the middle tier Patreon. Okay. I know guys, I used to work there. They're charging $200. Their analysts were subpar and they couldn't handle the bear market. I was there to handle the bear market. Right. So the other tiers contain special reports from a GAN model. That's the $88 tier. So if you bought the $88 tier and the $49 YouTube product, you're still below what they were charging for a day trading Discord. Other places charge more. Now, the $88 tier has macro and altcoin picks, aggressive altcoin picks. Like I got a list that I developed here. That's the list those altcoin guys got. Right. And of course, there's Tobie in the $49 product giving you small caps. Like I worked for another company. Their job was to give you small caps. I think at one point, you know, they were charging $200 a month for a webinar. Now, of course, there's a lot of smart people in this webinar, right? And that tier eventually went to $700 for direct access to the analyst. You have direct access to Tobie on the $49 product. You have AMA. She keeps looking at it and going, hey, man, any questions? I mean, I used to do these webinars at my other company. We were doing them twice a week in the bull market. So I'm trying to get rich. Did you ever look at my backdrop? Like really looked at it. Okay. So obviously there's Tobie's art on the wall. Tobie also handles my wardrobe, right? Because she's got skills like that. But if you tilt back, yeah, that's like the comfortable cot that I sleep in. Bill's trying to get rich off his Patreon members. No, Bill's trying to make his Patreon members rich so they can get out of their day job. And if enough people get out of their day job, then I'll wind up in Vegas. I mean, I already got nominated for Micro Influencer. You know, it's not like they don't see we're out there. So Bill's trying to get rich? No. Bill's trying to get big, rich, and T-Bone out of their jobs at 25% less than what other people are charging. And here's the deal. There's 3 different layers, right? So if you can't, you know, it's like if you live in another country and you only got so much purchasing power versus the dollar, I have multiple tiers for you. I don't make you pay one price for everything. Okay, so I'm here to help you. I'm here to produce research. I could talk into a camera and be like, okay, today XRP news is, and I do some of that. Instead, I'm producing content. All right. So you get the idea, and whoever that was, along with the people who do super chats, they basically provide me with a commercial for what we do here. We do research. All right. So, and one good sign is that when I do the streams on TikTok, because by the way, you better turn on notifications, not TikTok. The TikTok style, the vertical live streams in the morning. The good news for me is I'm getting a lot of hate on that. There's a lot of hate. And if you get hate, you're getting somewhere, right? And those things are explosive in terms of who's watching and the type of fireside chat style. Okay. That is what is the Eagle King got more stuff? Oh, request for Fartcoin. What would high quality research be without Fartcoin? Now, I know SPX6900 is trending, but it's not really moving. The thing about Fartcoin is Fartcoin was outperforming in the bear market, and nothing outperforms forever. But as you can see on the daily chart, Fartcoin is rebooting after the algos pumped it and then dumped it. Fartcoin and memes in general have not started yet. Now, Tobie is not a big fan of memes in general because she wants you invested in the future of money and tech. But if I'm reading this right, Fartcoin is worth $1 billion. $1 billion. We just got done talking about projects like Aave that are worth $6 billion. Now, of course, you know, that's a big difference, right? There's a big difference. But it's a meme. It's a meme created by AI. And what happens when agents start trading? I mean, you know, the guy who came up with the valuation of AI and crypto, I'm sort of modifying it, but like they're the two big disruptors and the value has to travel together. They're asking like, hey, what happens if they start moving together and the banks can't stop crypto from disrupting them? Like they got on board with stable coins and the Bitcoin ETF. But what happens when ETH and DeFi start knocking on the door? There's nothing they can do about it. They can't stop it, right? JB says, I've been watching Bill since 2019, and I'm the most honest and knowledgeable streamer there is, period. Thank you. Appreciate that, right? And you know what? You know what? Like I said, all you have to do, it's like being a AAA baseball player. It's like being a AAA baseball player. One day, they just notice you and you get called up to the majors, right? Lee is giving me some love, said I bought the $200 product and he likes this better. So people, you know, we're having like a marketing discussion today. I appreciate that. We got 3 different things you can buy. And you know what? Like, for example, the $25 tier got large caps. The $88 tier got large caps and mid caps. And then the $49 tier caps it out with small caps picked live. It's an exciting show. It's got all of Tobie's art in the background. I mean, we look like $1 million. And Tobie's just going, yeah, okay, next, yeah. It's like, you know, if you have a notebook, you can make money. You just need a notebook. That's it. That's it. You don't need a leveraged account. You don't. No. You don't need that because we got it for you. Okay, right? Now it's you know what? Yeah, somebody came to give you a hard time, dude. When people are giving you a hard time, you're getting somewhere. You're getting somewhere, and that's fine. All right, people. You know, people are giving me some love, and I appreciate that. That is the market update for today. We will see you next time.